Ahoy everyone, Cat Goblin Martin here, and in today's video you guys are in for a treat because I'm going to be reviewing all the enemies in Super Mario Sunshine. Yeah, I know, it's been a long while since I reviewed another Mario game. The last one was Mario Galaxy 1, which was an okay video. There's probably a few things I missed about the enemies in that game, which was pointed out in the comments, but I'm sure this time I have everything documented, especially the really obvious and obscure stuff. I actually wanted to make this video last summer because, you know, this game is about taking a holiday. However, I was extremely busy over the summer, so it's out in the winter instead. Now with all that said, let's get started with the review, starting with the key facts that all these enemies have in common. A majority of these enemies can be defeated by stomping them as usual in every Mario game. Almost all these enemies can be affected by Flood, Bodies of Water, and Yoshi. Some enemies can drop coins, blue coins, nothing at all, or a 1-up mushroom when defeated. And I also want to note that I'm only covering just the enemies. The bosses and Shadow Mario will be covered in another video, but I will briefly mention them since some of the enemies in the game work alongside them or only appear in the episodes with the boss. The first enemies that you'll encounter right off the bat are the Swoopin Stus, which are temporarily found in Delfina Plaza, as well as a couple of the episodes in Bianco Hills, Rico Harbor, Pianta Village, and Noki Bay. These goo creatures are extremely weird looking. They come in a variety of colors such as purple, blue, light blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. They can also be small or large, but no need to worry because they only do 1 damage. Their form of attacking you is by leaping towards you and making even more mess. They endlessly spawn out of the goop that's on the ground, and if you don't clean it all up, well, they'll continue spawning, which does make you have to look out for them when you battle the Proto-Piranhas, and Petey Piranha, as those two bosses like to surround themselves in the goop. You can easily defeat them by jumping on top of them, spraying them with Flood, or you could try to bait them to jump into the water, which instantly kills them. Sometimes they can also drop water bottles, which can be handy if you're away from a water source. Now next, we have 2 enemies that only appear in Bianco Hills, those being the Piranha Plant and the Piranhabon. Around Bianco Hills, you'll stumble across these goopy piranha plants that come out of the ground, and they will try to spit goop at you, which doesn't do a whole lot of damage. At least it doesn't block your view like the ink ones in 3D Land. You can of course jump on their head, which makes them shrink down, but doing that rewards you with nothing, so instead, just spray them with water and they'll explode into coins. Pretty dark for a Mario game. You can even spray them a little bit, which makes their bottom stem full of water, but at least they're all clean. The Piranhabon is just a Petey Piranha head minus the petals that rolls down the hill, creating a huge mess. Both Proto and Petey Piranha launch the bonds down the hill. You can jump on top of the bond to defeat it, and even spray it with Flood to see what it looks like. We have quite a few Pokeys here, so let's just start with the ordinary Pokey, which you can find in Bianco Hills, the area with sunflowers in Pinna Park, and in this little tall grass section in Pianta Village at nighttime. The Pokey hides in the ground with only the flower on its head visible. Then when you get close, it will pop up and will slam its body towards you to get a hit. Pretty interesting strategy for a Pokey. However, its attack is also its downfall, as it gets stuck, allowing you to jump on its head, rewarding you with 1 coin upon defeat. If you defeat it while it's upright, you can get 3 coins instead of 1, which makes them really useful targets for trying to get the 100 coins Shine Sprite. Some of them can drop blue coins. You can kind of stun them with Flood, and Yoshi can make quick work of them. The next 2 Pokeys are the Pokey Head and the Seedy Pod, only appearing in Bianco Hills and the Tall Grass Secret Course. I also love how the spikes on the bottom of their chin is supposed to resemble stubble, and they just have this really dumb looking happy expression as they try to kill you. The heads are similar to the regular Pokey where they hide and pop out, but since it's just a head, their means of attacking is by hopping towards you. You can of course jump on them, or you can use Flood to blast them towards the wall, making them splat into 3 coins, which is also pretty useful for the 100 coin Shine Sprite. The Seedy Pod, on the other hand, is a little bit tricky since they hide underground and will throw dirt at you when you go near them. You can hear them sing in their blue with a yellow flower on top. To quickly defeat them, you just have to spray them from a distance to stun them, then you can stomp on top of them. Yoshi can even pull them out of the ground to eat them. Up next are the Strolin Stus, which you can find in Bianco Hills Episode 1, Pinna Park, as well as Episode 2 Secret Course, Serena Beach Episode 2 Secret Course, Pianta Village Episode 5 Secret Course, Delfino Airstrip, and in the King Boo boss fight. If the Goombas in the Mario series had dogs, I would imagine that the Strolin Stus would fit that role quite nicely, since they kind of look like a dog with a Goomba-ish appearance, and they have Strolin in their name. The Strolin Stus are strolling around, and they're not too difficult to handle. They will chase you when spotted, you can spray them to flip them over, then you can of course punt them into a wall or a body of water. However, if you knock a bunch over and jump on one, all of them will be defeated. and if you do this with at least 3 of them, you'll earn a 1-up mushroom. This also works with the Smolderin variant, which we'll get into next. What's also interesting is that in Bianco Hills, they endlessly spawn out of this pile of goop, and they've got some goop on their head. Then in the secret courses, they spawn out of a graffiti picture of themselves, which you can wash away with Flood once you revisit the course. In Pinna Park, you can spot a stack of them called a Dango. The bigger Strolin Stu does not chase you and is immune to Yoshi, but if you defeat it first, all the little ones nearby will be defeated, granting you a single blue coin. And in Delfino Airstrip there are some of different sizes, but they still take away 1 HP. There are more variations of the Strolin Stu that only appear in Pinna Park. We have the Smolderin Stu, Winged Strolin Stu, and Swipin Stu. The Smolderin Stu also appears in the King Boo boss fight, and the Winged Strolin Stu appears a little bit larger in Serena Beach's Episode 2 secret course. The Smolderin Stu is much like the Strolin ones, but they're literally on fire, and can run pretty fast, so you'll have to douse them off before defeating them. Plus they run away when they're doused, but will ignite again shortly. The Winged Strolin Stus are much smaller, and they're blue. As in the name, they got wings and will just hover around the beach. When you get close to them, they will try to ground pound over you, but they're not too bad to take care of. In the secret course, they appear a tad bit larger. They only fly around to left and right, and are meant to be used as stepping stones. The Swipin Stu, on the other hand, is like the winged version, but larger and greener. And when that one ground pounds on top of you, it steals your hat, even donning a Mario mustache. What's even crazier is that Mario takes damage from the sun, so you got to get your hat back quickly before you die of heat stroke. Thankfully, these ones are pretty slow and drop a ton of coins when defeated. Bianco Hills is the only place where you can find the Skeeters. They reside in the water around the windmill and they're like water striders as they float with their legs on the water. If you go in the water, these guys will charge towards you as a means of attacking. You can see them prepare to charge towards you, which does give you time to move away. You can stun them with Flood, which gives you time to escape, or you can jump on top of them, which launches you high in the air. Super useful to get back up, as well as collecting all the red coins. You can't really hurt them, however, Yoshi can actually eat them, which is pretty wild, and I actually didn't know that at first. Another enemy that you can spot in Bianco Hills is the Coo Coo, a really weird looking chicken that flies and poops out goop, creating a mess, which then spawns in Swoopin Stus. It's a pretty passive enemy as it's mostly minding its own business. To defeat it, you can jump on top of it or spray it down to the ground, and each spray makes the Coo Coo drop a ton of coins, as well as a 1-up mushroom, which does come in handy when going for 100 coins. The Coo Coos make another appearance in episode 3 of Piranha Village, but instead of pooping out goo, they poop out lava goo, which is kind of annoying. So watch your step if you decide to clean up all the goo in the village. The Bloopers are another enemy that appears in Mario Sunshine, and they look a little different. You mainly encounter them in Rico Harbor, but they also appear in the King Boo boss fight, and alongside Gooper Blooper in episode 2 of Noki Bay. The Bloopers slide around an area. Once they spot you, they can either try to hit you with their tentacles, or spit out ink which causes a mess. And yes, this ink can spawn in Swoopin Stus and trap any nearby Piantas. They are not too difficult to defeat. You can even stun them with Flood, and they do hang around on the beams in Ricco Harbor, as you can see here. Surprisingly, they die if they fall into the water when you spray them off the beams. Besides the Blooper, there's also the Bloopad, only found in episode 1 of Ricco Harbor. The Bloopads can be seen jumping out of the water, and if you spray or jump on them, they turn into a platform you can stand on for just a couple of seconds before shrinking back to normal. There isn't really a way to defeat them, and I do feel like these guys are kinda forgettable. If you explore near the start, you can find some dead Bloopers and Bloopads, which implies that the Piranhas do indeed hunt them for food, as well as makes both the Blooper variants real-life enemies not created by Bowser Jr.'s brush. Next, we have a couple of smaller enemies. In Ricco Harbor and Pianta Village, you can find Klammers. Then also appearing in the same places plus Bianco Hills are the Wind Spirits. The Klamber is a small bug or arachnid-like enemy that climbs on cages or walls. They aimlessly walk around, making you become a little bit wary from their unpredictable movement, since they do stop and wait for a minute. You can easily knock them from the other side of the cage, jump on top of them if they are upright, and use Yoshi to eat them. The Wind Spirits. Oh boy. These guys are really annoying. Dealing with one is fine, but it gets a little bit crazier when you have multiple chasing you, on top of other enemies getting in your way. When you go somewhere high, the Wind Spirits will form. They'll start to circle you before charging. You can spray them to temporarily make them go away, but if you want to defeat them, you just need to use Yoshi, and they drop a single coin after when Yoshi eats them. The Wind Spirits also help out Shadow Mario in Pianta Village during the chase. In Bianco Hills and Noki Bay, you may come across wire traps, weird-looking shells that move across a wire, emitting electricity, which can make traversing a little bit annoying, especially in Noki Bay when you have to make your way towards the shell for the secret course. The red traps in Bianco Hills move along the wire, despawn at the end, and then reappear. You can also spray them away to keep some distance in between. Once you get to Noki Bay, you'll have a blue one added with the red, and they work a little differently. This time around, the traps will follow you along the wire. The blue ones move slow, while the red ones move fast. Just keep on jumping, and you'll be all good. While I'm here talking about traps, there's another little trap that can be quite a surprise and is useful against Piantissimo in Noki Bay, and that trap is Hatopop, plus the boxing glove. You can't really see these traps, but if you go into certain crevices around Noki Bay, you might just get hit by one. The Hatopop is basically one of those birds in a cuckoo clock where it springs out and surprises you. The boxing glove is pretty straightforward, it works the same. In my race with Piantissimo, I got launched pretty far, which helped me beat him. Pretty random traps. It's pretty obvious that Bowser Jr. installed these here. I mean, he seems like the kind of guy that would. Moving on, we have the Cataquacks in Gelato Beach. The Cataquacks like to roam around on the beach minding their own business. If you go near them, however, they will charge and fling you up in the air, which I guess can sometimes be useful. These things are kind of invincible. You can of course stun them with Flood, which makes them get stuck on the sand. Then you can hop on top of them for a coin, but on any other terrain you have to jump on them right away for them to be stuck, otherwise they'll just keep popping right back up. There are a few ways you can defeat them. You could lure them towards water, spray a dune bud near a flock of them which launches them high in the air, or use Yoshi to gobble them. There are two color variants of the Cataquacks. In episodes 1, 2, and 4 you'll see mostly blue ones, and in episode 5 and beyond there will be red ones. The difference between them is that the red ones will damage you when you get tossed. The blue ones can damage you if you bump into them away from their beak. And it's also interesting how you'll see a random blue or red Cataquack in an episode with the opposite variant, and these ones drop blue coins when you defeat them. The blue Cataquacks also like to take naps, and King Boo can spawn them in his boss fight. The red one's size can slightly vary, which doesn't really matter as they are capable of tossing melons in episode 8. I wasn't too sure if I was going to count this one, but we have the Plungelo, found in episode 2 of Gelato Beach. So these Cataquack-like enemies are wreaking havoc and disrupting the Sandbird's sanctuary. They walk along the mirrors with their plunger-like feet, and you gotta get up there to fling them off. When you fight them, the boss theme you hear when you've battled the Proto-Piranha plays, which means these things are kind of a mini-boss, but at the same time you fight multiple of them in one episode like the Snooza Koopa. Anyways, you just need to spray them towards the end of the mirror, walk on the other side, and do a ground pound to launch them. The Plungelos will chase you if you spray them, but if you're feeling a little bit brave, you can even launch all 3 or 2 at once. Since Isle Delfino is very tropical, you're of course going to run into some Cheeps, and there are 3 variants. In Rico Harbor, Delfino Airstrip, Noki Bay, and in the King Boo boss fight, you'll see the regular Cheeps. These ones swim in the water and will leap up in the air. They're mainly a hazard since they can bump into you if you're not careful. You can actually defeat them with Stomps, Flood, and Yoshi, but they'll just keep respawning. And when you do Yoshi's Fruit Adventure in Rico Harbor, they become useful since you need them to turn into platforms in order to progress to the Shine Sprite. King Boo can spawn the Cheeps, and they sort of just helplessly wriggle around. The second variant of this Cheep can actually be found in Corona Mountain, and those are the Lava Cheeps. It's the same idea with them, only they are on fire, so you wouldn't really want to touch them. They got sort of a charred color to them, even their eyes look different. last Cheep variant is the aggressive one, which is more of a magenta color with dark blue fins, and you can spot them in Gelato Beach, Delfino Airstrip, and Noki Bay. These ones cannot be defeated at all, and they serve as a nuisance for Mario, as when you approach them, they will chase, then grab and drag you deep underwater. They'll even patiently wait for you to come down if you hover. Okay, they're not too annoying if you know what you're doing. The only time these Cheeps could be a threat is if you're low on air and you get grabbed by one. For this next one, you'll have to be more careful in Bianco Hills, Gelato Beach, and Pianta Village. Sorry, I couldn't resist a good bee pun. Anyhow, the bees are a minor enemy you'll encounter. 3 of them patrol the hive, and if you are to destroy the hive with Flood, you'll find an angry horde of bees ready to sting you. Yoshi can make quick work of them by eating them all up. Upon defeat, they release a coin. You mainly destroy them to get a blue coin out of it, and there is one hive in Bianco Hills that can release a 1-up mushroom. I wouldn't really consider this one to be an enemy because it does help you in Bianco Hills, but it can become a nuisance in the King Boo boss fight, so I decided to add it in, and it is the Poink, a strange inflated pig creature that bounces around like a balloon, and when you get close to them with the spray nozzle equipped, it will attach itself to Flood, which is really handy when you battle PD Piranha a second time, as you can use the Poinks to inflate them more and shoot down PD Piranha to the ground. During the King Boo boss, the Poinks are one of the randomly selected enemies King Boo can spawn when he gets a triple question mark. And because he can spawn in a variety of enemies, the Poinks could potentially get in your way for dealing with Cataquacks or blue Electro Koopas. Luckily, you can get rid of a Poink by switching nozzles instead of trying to shoot it out, which takes some time. The Poinks are super useful at first, and I think it's really interesting how they can hinder you in certain scenarios. Also wanted to mention that you can still fire them when Flood is out of water, and you can jump on top of them to defeat them. It's time to unleash Bowser's Koopa army, and there are quite a variety of Koopas in the game. In Pinhead Park, you'll face the blue and red Electro Koopas. The blue ones also accompany King Boo, and the red ones can be found on the underside of Pianta Village. Both variants behave differently. The blue Electro Koopa wanders around the park, but when it spots you, it will throw its shell like a boomerang, which is electrified in order to damage you. This also makes the Koopa vulnerable to attacks, as you can jump on it or spray it with water to electrocute it for more coins when the shell comes back. If this Koopa were to lose its shell, it will just sit there in its pink shorts until a new shell respawns, and Yoshi does love to eat them. The red Electro Koopa is pretty passive, only walking along cages, which does mean that it can get in your way. Luckily, you can go on the other side of the cage to knock it away. During episode 5 of Pinna Park, the Runaway Ferris Wheel, you have to parkour and make your way up to the top to defeat the King Electro Koopa, or also known as the Giant Electro Koopa. The Koopa is sleeping up at the top, emitting electricity from its shell, which is tampering with the Ferris wheel controls. To defeat it, you just need to kick it from underneath the cage, then watch as it gets flung into the water. If you want, you could get a good look at it, but if you touch it, well, you'll get electrified. A completely new Koopa variant appears in episode 4, The Wilted Sunflowers, and these ones are called Snooza Koopas. This Koopa sleeps in the sand with its shell above, which does look like a Yoshi egg. To wake them, you just need to spray them with some water, then they'll chase and try to ground pound you. Once it's on its back, you can pound their stomach to defeat them. I love how these Koopas resemble sea turtles, and you just straight up exterminate them. I guess the Piranhas don't believe in saving the turtles. Our next stop is Piranha Village, and this time we have enemies that are not created by Bowser Jr., nor do they work for him. Instead, they are owned by the Piranhas, and they are the Chain Chomplets in episode 1 and the Big Chain Chomp in episode 4. Both of these Chain Chomps work pretty much the same. The only real kicker is that you put more effort when dealing with the big one. You'll notice straight away the Chain Chomps are red hot with rage because they don't want to take a bath, and the Chomplets even leave a trail of fiery goo, which is just awful. I guess Bowser Jr. probably tampered with them. The Chomplets are actually the more aggressive ones, as they will chase you if you're in their line of sight. Fortunately for you, you have Flood to cool them down, giving you time to grab their tail and fling them into the water. If you take too long, they will heat back up, and if you just fling them, they will get dizzy. The big chain Chomp roams around in the path trying to avoid you, and it can only hurt you if you bump into it. Cool it down with some water and drag it by the chain over to this water pit to receive your shine. The big one can be a little bit annoying, but if you're patient and wait for it to get close to the end, you'll be all good. Thankfully, the chain Chomps don't hurt you when they're calmed down. Serena Beach is a really nice little area in Isle Delfino. Okay then, I'm just gonna check in at the hotel for good old Toadsworth and... oh, of course it's haunted by ghosts. Well, that's probably what I get for assassinating everyone in Hitman's Haven Island map. Enough of that and more on the boos, which you only find here, and there are 3 boo variants. First is the ordinary boo. They pretty much passively roam around the hotel. They can turn invisible, though you can use Flood to make them reappear so that you can see them, and they can even disguise themselves as a coin, blue coin, or Shadow Mario in episode 7 to throw you off. When they disguise themselves, it's pretty obvious to tell. I mean, the real coins would spin, and the fake ones don't. All you do to defeat them is jump on their head, which usually doesn't work in other Mario games, or use Yoshi on them too. What's also interesting is that when you go to the casino and the King Boo boss fight, the boos will actually follow you. The pink ones that you see flying around are called block boos. Spray them with a little water, and you can use them as platforms to reach certain areas in the hotel, hence the name. Yoshi cannot affect them, which makes sense so you don't get yourself stuck, and you can jump on their head if you want, but nothing really happens. Then our last boo is the Sleepy Boo. It's just a boo that's bigger and has fallen asleep in front of a crevice or vent passage. These are the only ones Mario can't hurt, so you'll have to find your good friend Yoshi to eat them. I really love the new designs for the boos here. It kind of looks like they either drank too much or stayed up all night gambling. The Bob-omb also appears in this game, and I really love the new design. It's got a digital screen where you can see the eyes. The Bob-ombs are used as a last resort for defense by the Monty Mole boss when you approach the mole's cannon in Pinna Park and Noki Bay, and the Bob-ombs can be spawned by King Boo as well. The Bob-ombs will walk towards you, and the only way they can hurt you is if they explode, which you can tell when you see the countdown from 3 on their face. To use them against the Monty Mole, you just need to spray them with water, which makes them turn blue. Then you can pick them up and throw them. If you don't pick them up at all, they can still explode. If you place them instead of throwing, they sort of just fling themselves. Yoshi can eat them and spray them as usual, and they immediately explode once they touch the body's water. The final enemy in the game is the Bullet Bill, and I've decided to end with the Bullet Bill because in certain places there are different variants with their own unique behaviors. So let's get into them. The first one is the ordinary Black Bullet Bill, found during the Mecha Bowser fight in Pinna Park. Mecha Bowser will fire the Bullet Bills out of its chest and they fly along the rails, either racing from behind or in front of you. If you pay attention and use Flood, these ones won't be too much of a problem, and sometimes they can completely miss hitting you. When you battle the Monty Mole in Pinna Park, you'll come across 3 new variants. We have the black and gold Bullet Bills that travel in a downwards arc and will explode on impact. The only difference between these two is that the black ones release 2 coins when sprayed, while the gold ones, which rarely get fired, can release 8 coins. Then there's the purple guided Bullet Bills with a blinking red nose that chases you, and they are useful for breaking the baskets that have the blue coins. You can spray them with water, jump on top of them, and use Yoshi to eat all 3 of these Bullet Bills. Another important thing to mention about these 3 is that they can take away 3 HP, making them the only enemy that deals a lot of damage. Plus, with the amount of coins they drop, they're super useful for the 100 coins shine sprite here. The last variant, the black guided Bullet Bill, appears at the end of Corona Mountain when you face Bowser and Bowser Jr. These ones get fired out of Bowser Jr.'s little sub. The ones he fires before you break the first protruding platform will follow you like the previous guided ones, but once you shatter a platform, he will fire them out like crazy. However, their line of sight at this point is very low, so they'll chase you if you're at the edge of a platform. You can also see that their nose is now blinking red, and you'll come across a blue guided Bullet Bill that can drop water bottles or one-up mushroom, which does help out a lot. These ones aren't too bad, especially since Bowser can destroy them too, and they don't take away 3 hit points. Also wanted to point out is that you can see an inactive Bullet Bill in Noki Bay on top of the cork where the Monty Mole is. Again, the new designs for them are pretty good. They look very similar to Torpedo Ted, which appears in the next 3D Mario game. Well everyone, there you have it. Those were all the enemies, minus the bosses that you face in Super Mario Sunshine. I definitely was not expecting this video to be super long. I'm pretty sure Mario Galaxy 1 has more enemies, and that video was around the 30-minute mark, but in that game the enemies were really simple to document, while here in Mario Sunshine, there are multiple variations of the same enemy. And then of course I have to mention about what happens when these enemies touch water or come across Yoshi. I never grew up playing Mario Sunshine as a kid, probably because the game was just too expensive, but I really do enjoy this game a lot, especially the enemies. They have this wacky and goofy design to them which just fits the game as a whole, and we never see Nintendo do something like that again in a few of the later Mario games as they use the staple design. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and tell me which one of these enemies was your favorite. 2025 is now here, so I hope to get more videos out soon, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.